Oh boy. What are you drinking, Christian?
Cocoa nog.
Eggnog. Cocoa nog.
I can't have it real eggnog.
Cocoa
Yeah, no, I'd
nog.
shit myself.
That sounds like a fake thing that like a vegan would like make. Oh, I got cocoa nog. Like,
Yeah.
it's actually
It's actually
I
really
mean, I
good.
guess it pretty much is.
yeah, true.
Yeah, I feel like it'd probably still be delicious.
It's. I find it actually tastier because I like that coconut aftertaste.
You know what I ate today?
Ooh, coconut, nice.
Have you guys ever had chickpea before? The restaurant Chickpea.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, yes, I've had chickpeas before.
Okay, I know you've had chickpeas, Annie. Not calling any names, but yeah. But
Oh,
but
our
you
ethnic guy
restaurant.
had ethnic food.
you've had it though, Christian, right?
yeah.
Anne's never really a big fan. We used to buy it like a couple years ago. We'd order it like every month, and we haven't had it for like a year and a half. Dude, it is so good. It is so good. It's
Where
like
is it?
it's like Maine, but we just like skip the dishes, right?
Yeah.
It's like fried eggplant. They're fries, but they're like chickpea fries. So they're like fried chickpeas into like sticks of fries. There's like a
Yeah.
salad. There's like a sweet hummus. It's so good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. Hummus is also made from chickpeas.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's
Let
really
it
good.
be. Man. So,
Boom. All right, Annie. It's your time to shine.
Good to go? Hello, and welcome to the Swamp Life. We're the Swamp Cast. Today, I guess I'm going to be the one in charge of steering this ship. I'm Annie, and we got the regular boys in the house. Boys in the house.
What's up, boys
the house.
and girls?
Thomas and Christian. And yeah, so the topic for today is going off of a comic book series that I've been currently reading, and now I've finished it. Hawkeye from 2012, written by Matt Fraction and illustrated by David Aja. There will be spoilers, but this thing's been out for 8 years, so I'm not too concerned. And even if there are spoilers, you should whoever's listening to this should probably read it.
Spoiler
And, we're gonna
warning.
Tell you why. Yeah, there you go. We got that out of the way. Yeah. So for just a rundown, I think Christian's read it.
Some of it.
Maybe. Yeah. Thomas, nope.
Nope.
But you're about to find out why maybe you should read it.
Cool.
Yeah. So basically, it came out in 2012, and it was kind of like this. 2012, the year of the Avengers, and so people were like intrigued by these characters again, and particularly Hawkeye because he's like the most low key of the Avengers. He's just the dude with the bow and arrow. And so they were trying to kind of reinvigorate him a little bit in the comics. And so they got this creative team together who also did, a few years before that, had done a run on the Iron Fist, which we will get to eventually. And so that worked out really well. So they decided to bring them back, and they had a story in mind for Hawkeye and try to find a way to make him more interesting and more appealing. Because I guess like your basic comic book fans are aware of him, but they didn't really have. He didn't really have like his own title and his own series that really stood out of the rest. So this is kind of a chance to like bring him to the forefront, I guess.
Quick question: did they bring in the writer and the artist? Because the art
Yeah.
looks very similar to the
Yeah,
Iron Fist.
they brought them
Okay.
both.
Fantastic. That's awesome. What a great
Yeah.
team.
Exactly. Yeah. So like the team worked really well for Iron Fist, and they got to add so much mythology and mythos to that character, and so they decided to do something similar to Hawkeye, sort of reboot or like retcon a few things, or just take inspiration from things that existed, and we'll get to that. So yeah, so this is super popular run and a good one too. And it basically, though it's like 22 issues, so it's not super long. And essentially the entire run is Clint Barton, Hawkeye, moving back to Brooklyn, and he is essentially Brooklyn.
Sorry.
And he's essentially protecting a building from the tracksuit mafia, as they are called. Yeah, so it's just a dude trying to protect a building from being taken over by a gang who want to use the buildings to, like, you know, your usual mafia stuff to trade drugs, make drugs, sell drugs, probably more than that. And so yeah. But particularly what I found super interesting of it, so this is where the spoiler comes into play. In like chapter, I think like 19, I want to say, Clint kind of, he's like in the midst of, fighting this mafia gang, and they have a boss, and the boss ends up sneaking into the building, and he's kind of caught off guard. And so the chapter before that, or a couple chapters before that, ends with basically the guy taking one of Clint's arrows and stabbing him through the ears. And so he is deaf after that. And so like chapter 19 kind of starts off with him in the hospital, and you're basically in his shoes. So it's just a bunch of empty speech bubbles, and all you see is him just reading the words on a paper saying that you are now deaf. And so the whole chapter essentially is him processing that fact. And then you kind of have these flashbacks of he wasn't fully deaf, but he was hard of hearing when he was a kid. And now he's like, he has to kind of accept that and deal with it. And that's the part that I kind of found really interesting. And that entire chapter is in ASL. So a lot of it is sign language, and I mean, you can kind of understand if you don't know sign language. You can still understand relatively what they're trying to ask or say, but it's very much like that experience is kind of in the forefront of it. And so the reason that I picked this as a topic is because I've always wanted to learn sign language, and for whatever reason never got around to it. And then after reading this, I decided to start learning it. So I've been like practicing my alphabets, practicing, just conversation starters, stuff like that. And so it was really interesting going from that issue, and then, just getting more into that headspace, I guess. Like, that was the whole point of that issue, is to understand the perspective of someone who has a hearing disability. I thought it did a really good job. Obviously, like, I don't fully know that experience, but the whole intention of that chapter was to try to put you in that perspective. And I thought I believe for the most part that they achieved it. And then the issue won like a couple of awards and stuff. So it definitely like rang true to a lot of people. So yeah, before I go any further, any questions, comments?
Yeah. So
concerns?
so they rebooted Hawkeye in 2012, right? And that was when this came out, this issue?
It didn't come out in 2012, but like that series started in 2012, and
Gotcha.
The issue I think came out in like 2014, I want to say.
Okay. Did he remain hearing impaired throughout the rest of the run for the comic?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
So they kept it, and he's still hearing impaired in the comics, except like, they try to get around it in a few ways. Like, Tony Stark gives him a really good hearing device, and
Of course,
because
of
he's
course.
got the tech for it. And so that was kind of like a bit of a cop out, but that was from another writer, another creator had to find a
'Cause
way.
they didn't
Like, they
want
still,
him to be deaf.
Yeah.
so like they try to kind of, walk back on that in less creative ways. unfortunately. But like there are still ways where, you know, like he'll get knocked out or knocked over and his hearing device will fall off, and so he'll
cool.
just, there's a guy like just yelling in the background like your classic villain monologue, and he's just like, I can't hear you, so this doesn't matter. Which is good. Like they use it for comedy as well, which I like that. You know, there's some sense of humor in there, even though it's like obviously not a funny thing, but you can see the humor in it. And like I started watching like a bunch of videos on, you know, not on hearing impaired people, but like just kind of their experience of a lot of things. Or like there's a video online where like it's like commonly asked questions of deaf people, which some of them are ridiculous. Like, I think there was like one, like, do deaf people think? Which is, yeah.
Can deaf people feel love? Like, what are these?
Yeah, it's so
like,
bizarre.
Yeah, I keep talking to them, and they look like they're and they don't look like they're thinking at all. It's like that's the only way that this person could have come up with that question, because that's insane. Do deaf people think?
Yeah, so that was there's that. But yeah, like it's interesting because essentially when he wrote that issue, like the writer Matt Fraction, he knows sign language, but obviously like he's not fluent necessarily. He doesn't speak it every day. So he got one of his friends to actually help with like, you know, common phrases or slang, because like any language, it also has slang. So just to kind of really represent it as best as possible. And the person that he ended up, or the person that ended up helping him, her daughter read the issue, and she was like, holy shit, this is exactly what it feels like. It's like when there's a conversation happening, it literally feels like there's a bunch of empty speech bubbles, because you know they're talking, but you don't know what the hell they're saying. Especially like, I mean, there are a lot of people who can read lips, and if they, you know, cover their mouth or like cough or for whatever reason, you've just lost a couple words. And so like the issue does something really fun with that, where like Clint can read lips, but the way they kind of transcribe it is literally him thinking about what they possibly have said. Yeah. So it's like, say they ask them, or like someone's talking and they're like, did you want to go grab coffee? But instead of did you want to go grab, maybe he didn't get the word coffee, so he'd be like, toffee? And then he'd question himself, and he's like, oh, it's something. You want to go grab something, so say yes or no. Like, you know, like you get into his mindset a little bit more. I thought that was hilarious and clever.
Well, it's cool because when you think about, you know, handicapped, disabled, you know, subsects of the world, right? I don't think about, you know, deaf people too much in pop culture. You know, blind people I think are more represented, right? Deadpool, and just I think just in kind of in society and stuff. I think that's kind of covered more. Maybe because it's more sexy to be blind than deaf. I don't know, but like well, not sexy, but I mean,
I think it's like less effort. I think that's the thing. I feel like with ASL, there's a whole language you got to learn, basically, right? Yeah. And I think that people are less inclined to do so, unfortunately.
I guess it's also like the idea of how do you make this like you just add subtitles to a movie kind of thing, like how do you help and then like what is it like Into the Spider-Verse because they filmed because they animated on twos, right? Apparently, and because they didn't have any motion blur, apparently it made lip reading a lot easier.
Oh, cool.
So deaf people actually got to enjoy the film much more because like they could fully understand what they were saying. Well, I mean, maybe not fully, but it was much more easy to actually just read lips as opposed to just worry strictly about what was being, like, you know, reading the subtitles underneath, which is awesome, right? But as far as I know, I think that was done like as an accident, and then when they found out that this was like actually, you know, helping deaf people because like it was much more clear. They're like, wow, that's awesome. Like, we had no idea. It was like an accident. Like, I don't think it was on purpose.
Yeah, just a happy accident.
But it was obviously something that they were really happy that it's like, oh, more people get to experience and enjoy our film. It's like, couldn't you imagine the fact that there's motion blur in films?
Yeah, that's wild.
Already makes
I never would have
harder.
thought of that.
That's insane. No, I mean, either, right?
Well, it's an awesome movie, so that's good.
Yeah, more.
Yeah, just
more
another
power
reason to
it.
be more awesome. It's awesome. It just keeps leveling up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can do a whole podcast on just Spider-Verse. It's like that different and cool.
That'd be
and,
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, months worth of content. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I was curious more about kind of the run of the content with ASL. So it was that issue, and then did they have more where it's entirely in ASL, and you could only really read it if you could read sign language?
I mean, they mostly stuck to that particular issue because that was kind of the issue where he found out that he was deaf, and you basically like they have a couple flashbacks, and he didn't have the best childhood in an abusive house, but his brother was always his older brother was always with him, and so like his hearing gets damaged because of his like abusive father, and so he's very like distraught, obviously, as he's like 7 or something, so he's very young, and he just like kind of gives up, and like he's just like, I can't do anything anymore, and his brother is the one who starts to like kind of bring him back to life, and he teaches him sign language, and he teaches him how to read lips, and he's like, this is your power, basically. And that's kind of like, that's the whole reason I think why they decided to go with that approach is because Clint is the only, well, I guess Black Widow doesn't have any powers either, but he's just a guy with a bow and arrow. So I think like that was one of the aspects that they really wanted to showcase, is that he's a guy who doesn't have any powers, but his power is that he can adapt really quickly. Like that's what the writer said in terms of like why they decided to go down that route, and like obviously like the one part of it was that representation aspect of like that never happens, or it's very rare, at least in any medium. So they decided to try that out, and then the other part of it was that he's just a guy, like he's just a dude, and bad shit can happen to him, and he's also kind of. I thought this was interesting. Like, he said that he's kind of in his own head a lot, and he doesn't enjoy himself. I thought that was super interesting because, well, that was even before the deaf aspect came into play. Like, you always kind of see that in him. He's a very like self-loathing person a little bit, because he feels like he just attracts trouble, and people around him end up getting hurt because of that. And so he doesn't like to be in his own head, but now he's deaf,
stuck.
so he that is the only voice he can hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now he's stuck in his own head. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was super interesting. So it's kind of like in a way, it's like a full circle, because he has to be comfortable with who he is in order to move on and still function and still, be an Avenger or, whatever, or just like be a human being. I thought that was like brilliant. I never thought of it, but it's super good.
I think on that note, like, because Marvel has another deaf hero called Echo, right?
Echo, yes.
But like, she's kind of got like that Taskmaster ability, which is to be able to kind of see something and mimic it perfectly. So all she has to, so I remember reading about her character, and she kind of like she can speak fluently because she would just see all the small transitions in like people's like, was it Adam's apple?
Vocal
so
cords?
she knew how to like so she knew how to like talk like them and stuff like that, which kind of like made, I don't know, it kind of brought something that's like, oh wow, like this is like cool, like a deaf superhero, into like they're still like really so super that it doesn't quite grasp
you like lose that relatability a bit.
Exactly. So it's like that. I think like that's what I really enjoyed about that issue of Hawkeye, was that it made it feel really grounded. So you're kind of like, I mean, as a reader, right? Like and
Totally.
as a reader who can hear, it's like I'm not entirely sure how accurate it is, but it really puts you in that mindset of like, oh damn, like what do you do now? Like things must be so much harder, and they kind of like, they have comical moments, but on the most part, like it felt like they took it really like, this guy adapts really well, but he's human, kind of thing. Like they
exactly,
which makes it kind of much more like of a I can see why you wanted to, like, that kicked your butt into finally wanting to learn. Well, attempting to learn.
Yeah, like the beginning of it, for sure.
Exactly. Like,
I think that was
language.
I think he was in that through the course of that particular chapter, he's very much like against doing anything about it. Like he's just kind of given up. And he's like, it took everything from me. Like, my hearing is, he's the guy who, never misses. And a large part of that is because he can sense or hear things around him, so he can shoot what he needs to. And now it's taken away from him, so he's like, oh shit, now I'm literally just a guy with the bow and arrow. But the whole idea of him being able to adapt was, I think it gives us a little peek into, people with disabilities and how they have to function and survive and adapt and continue forward, which is never easy. And, everyone has their struggles, but yeah, I thought it was super good. Like, the way they kind of showcased it was uncomfortable, but I think that was the point, right? It's like you're uncomfortable, you're confused, because if you don't know sign language, it's pretty hard to fully grasp that issue, which is why I was like, I've always wanted to learn it, and now I have even more reason because I really want to understand this fully. So I went and learned, like, at least even letters, right? Because a lot of it is like when you're, for example, when you're signing your name, there's obviously no word or like symbol for your name because it's unique to you. So you just spell your name out. And so just knowing even just the alphabets is big. And I've always felt that, like, I don't know if you guys are okay. So like sometimes on Granville, there'll be people who kind of give you like the sign language,
the sign card pamphlets.
Yeah. So like I've gotten that before, and I'm like, oh man, I really want to learn this. And so I found one of those, and I was like, oh yeah, like I still had it because like I knew I wanted to, but I just classic, just kept it aside or put it away or whatever. And then I pulled that out, and I was like, okay, there it is. And so just learned the alphabets and kind of just start from there, and then found some YouTube videos, and yeah, it's super helpful. I mean, I learned the alphabets in like 20 minutes. It wasn't like, it's basically they just do A, B, A, B, C, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, E. So you keep kind of going back and then going forward, so you recollect it better.
You repeat the ones that you've just done, and then also get to attach the new one at the end, and then you're always kind of like repeating. So at least by the end of it, hopefully A has definitely sunk in.
For sure. Yeah. And Z's pretty easy. You literally you show Z by just like moving your fingers.
Zorro style, yeah.
Zorro style, exactly.
Sweet. All right.
I was curious, like, for sign language, is it harder or like easier than a normal like second language or a traditional second language to learn?
That's a good question. I think I would say it's interesting because it's so funny because right? I think like other languages are so sound based.
Yeah.
Like for example, Spanish or even Hindi or like a lot of like languages, you need to roll your R's. That's very like part of that language. And not part of many, or like it's usually an accent thing too, right?
I can't roll my R's.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so I think sign language is way more visual. So if you're like a visual learner, maybe you might pick it up a little quicker.
Yeah, good point.
So I wonder if you have like accents in sign language in a way.
Maybe, yeah.
Or like how
that's the thing, because.
Like the speed in which you might transition. Like, I don't know. I'm just curious now because I've never considered like in Taiwan when Andre and I were there. Andre learned some Mandarin in Shanghai, so China, like mainland. And then in Taiwan, when he was talking, they're like, "Oh, you speak with an accent," kind of thing. and it's like, what? Like we never considered that. We were just learning the language, right? And of course, like every language has an accent. So I'm just curious because I don't know how it would work, but I'm curious if there's like certain gestures that it's like, all right, they understand the gesture, but like the speed or the timing or something that you do adds.
I think there's
a form of accent,
I think the speed is definitely a factor, and I think the way you hold your fingers in specific spots. They refer, I mean, if you're doing letters or whatever, they refer to different letters. So if you hold your finger in a specific way, that's just an accent to you. So I think it's way more personalized as opposed to from a region.
Like a handwriting kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it'd be more inclined, more closer to that. Because ASL is American Sign Language, so like that's just one way of signing. So I think like people would come up with their own certain words or idioms, or like I said, like
slang.
You said,
slang. Yeah, exactly.
Or like flirting via sign language, like a sexy Z, just like drawing the curves on the letters. You know, I don't.
Yeah, it becomes cursive.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah. I want to know more. Anne knows the alphabet for sign language. She was saying. So I'd be curious to learn more from
simple.
Like about like all those different things. Are you looking to take more sign language like courses or classes, Annie?
Yeah, I do want to try to get a bit more into it, because I mean I've always wanted to learn it, and I think it's just a good thing. It's just like a language, right? So I think it's just a good thing to learn and know. And I feel like I'm a pretty visual learner, so
might be easier to pick up.
Exactly. It might start to click a little bit faster compared to other languages.
Well, if you start, you should show Thomas and I, and then maybe we'll all learn a little bit. It'll be really hard to do the podcast, but I think it might be worth it.
Shitty podcast. A sign language podcast.
Just an hour of sign language.
That's what I thought was like, ironic, the fact that I chose to talk about sign language on a podcast.
I was about to say, I'm like, we should have someone on the podcast and talk about it. I'm like, wait.
No,
maybe not. Wait. I didn't say that. It's weird because when you learn a language, you like, let's say you learn Vietnamese, you're like, I can go to Vietnam and practice it there, right? So for sign language, you can't travel to like a deaf place. There's no place that's like uniquely right. So it's honestly kind of in a way harder to kind of practice, I would imagine.
I guess so. Like to have conversations with people would be much harder unless they actually know sign language.
Yeah,
which I don't think is a large population. So. That part would be a little bit more difficult, but that's why I've only just started learning, like, thank you and you're welcome and hello, what's up.
What's that? Just
no, this is thank you.
Oh, okay.
The chin, and then what else? Like I'm learning sign language.
That's probably a good one.
So that so in case that they're like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm still learning. Or just to ask like what's like if they sign something specific, it's like you do that same motion and then you ask them what that means instead of like spelling out the word that you want to sign.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So like different things like that, which is, I think they're pretty handy just to know. And so like I've been trying to like practice it in the morning, so that it kind of, at least not all of it registers. There's like 20 different things, so it hasn't fully registered yet. I think it's like five or six things have registered so far, but it's only been a week, so gonna keep doing it, and then
is there like
we'll see
Duolingo but for sign language?
It's just a YouTube video, to be honest, like so far at least. And then I think I'll look up some more. There's a lot of, I mean, it's the internet. There's a bunch of resources on there.
True.
So I thought that was cool. And then the other aspect of Hawkeye is the archery part of it. Because archery's cool, guys.
Well, dude, archery tag, man. You're a former Battle Royale winner at archery tag in Richmond. You may not have won back-to-back games like I have, but you still won, Annie. So that's all that matters.
Did
you won that game when I wasn't present?
That's true. That's true, actually, yeah. What if we're like two... Maybe Christian is as well. I haven't seen his archery skills. What if we're like prodigies? We don't know about it.
I was going to say, I find it unfair that I have not been to either of these. So maybe y'all scared.
It was always
I tried setting up archery tag and like no one could make it.
No one could make it.
So I gave up.
Yeah, because for Matt and Steven and Jake's birthdays, they did like the past 3 years. Yeah, I'm assuming not this February, but
probably not.
Probably not. But no, but the past 3 years it's been archery tag. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's always a good time.
It's super fun. Yeah, I always wanted to try it, and I was curious as to like how that would work. But I like the fact that there were like a bunch of different game modes, just like a video game. It's like the doctor one was hilarious. I got shot right in the nuts. That wasn't that great.
Yeah,
but
I mean, well,
yeah.
Sorry.
Like because
I was trying to heal someone.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because
how
it's kind
dare
of
you, Annie?
like one of the modes is like team based, like quads, Call of Duty, or any sort of like battle royale, right?
Yeah.
And I find like I won that because I just play a lot of Warzone. So I just knew like, okay, camp here in this corner. Make this alliance now. Okay, betray and like, yeah.
I think the best part of that is that you have to actually like pick up arrows as you're going, like as you're walking, running by or whatever.
Yeah.
So like there's a bit of strategy involved in terms of where you're getting your ammo from. And that's always fun.
It's a good workout, really good times. Man. I'm always so sweaty after, like the games are like like 10 minutes, and you're just drenched afterwards.
Yeah, like you squat a lot because of the cover fire. Yeah, my thighs and my glutes were having fun the next day.
Yeah,
I was like, shit, I'm weak.
Yeah, it's a butt workout.
It's good times.
I wonder where else you could, like. I'm sure there's archery clubs in the city and stuff.
Yeah, so I was trying to look for that because I really wanted to do some like just regular target.
I found some in the North Shore, I think, like an indoor.
Yeah, there's an archery
like
club in Richmond. And then there's some in like you said, the North Shore. But I haven't been able to find.
In Hong Kong, we would go to my dad, Andre. I think it was Andre. Yeah, Andre, Seb, and I. We would have to like hike up this hill to go to this like flat plain, like kind of like area that was up there with like they had like an archery kind of like net kind of thing at the end of the lanes to make sure that if you miss your target, it hits this net and catches all the arrows so you don't shoot into the jungle kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we had to hike there every week
That's cool.
Do some archery.
So you get like a bit of a workout and then.
Yeah, exactly. The warm up, the leg warm up, so you can stay as still as possible.
Yeah,
yeah.
But it was awesome.
Yeah, so
it was a gorgeous way to.
I got super into. Like, I went down this like rabbit hole of archery videos on YouTube. I found some cool stuff. So there was like a couple different forms of archery, or a couple different. I mean, I don't think I would call them forms. I guess the different ways that archery is prevalent in modern times, because obviously like no one's going to a battlefield with a bow and arrow. Not these days. You go and get sniped. Yeah. But if they added a bow and arrow in Warzone, I might consider playing.
They do have a bow and arrow in Cold War. You can get it in a kill streak. And yeah, it fires like it's like a flaming arrow. So you fire it and then you can use, it's kind of like a Molotov cocktail almost. So you fire it in a room and then guys can like catch on fire and stuff.
That's cool. That'd be fun. Yeah, like I remember playing Crisis and they had a compound bow. So like the different ways that archery exists now is the first thing that I found was like people who just kind of want to learn more of like the history of archery, so kind of how it existed in, like it's existed for a long time. It's like one of the most basic weapons that man has created. So like from the Middle Ages,
incredibly powerful. That's what allowed the Mongols to take over most of the world.
Exactly.
Largest empire in the world in the history, I think.
Yep, in history. And they were particularly good at horseback archery.
Yeah.
So they were just deadly because they could move quickly and shoot people down. So they were like proficient with archery while in motion, which is really hard to do.
Yeah. So damn, you gotta like ride the horse and you gotta shoot the thing.
Yeah. So that was that's exactly why they were the largest army in history. then the other version of archery is like for sports. So your traditional, well, I guess not traditional, but Olympics and that kind of archery, where they're very much not on a horse, completely still, in fact. And then your last kind is probably bow hunting. So, going to the woods and getting some game.
Cool. Like Far Cry. That's what I picture. Cry. Yeah, just going down hunting down like something in the wild, like a deer, and then just skinning it.
Yeah, exactly. So those would be like the three different kinds, and then for like the Middle Ages and like the more historic archery, I found this guy called Lars Anderson. Yeah, he's a badass. He's crazy. So he mostly tries like archery in more traditional forms of archery. So he's like reading history books, and like the Arabs were really good in archery. So like the Persian armies were proficient in it. So he was trying to learn like kind of how they do their thing. And kind of like when you pull a bow back to your anchor point, like they have different ways of holding it back. So like the Western versus the Eastern style of doing it. I think like the Western style is usually 3 fingers, 1 on the top, 2 in the bottom. Hold it back. But in the Eastern style,
sure right the line touches the nose. The string touches the nose and the lips.
Yeah, exactly. But like I think the Eastern style, they tend to use like their not middle finger, index and their thumb. So they pull it back like that and like let go. I'm saying it like people can see me.
But we can see you. We appreciate it.
There you go. Y'all know. That was cool. He tried out a bunch of different. I would definitely like go to YouTube and check him out. He's crazy. He's a master. He does like these crazy trick shots and stuff where he like curves the arrow like behind a wall and gets his target, or like catches arrows midair and shoots it in the same spin before he touches the ground. Like he's got some wild shit. And then he made a video about like just archery in general, and then he debunks this myth of quivers being in your back, or like when you think of an archer, you think of like that quiver in your back. It wasn't as common in history as you would think.
I don't think it happened at all, right? Like I think that like all
it did happen.
Did it?
It did happen. It just wasn't very common, because most archers in history were probably on the battlefield and they had to move, and having a bunch of arrows in your back while moving, not the best idea. You're just gonna lose a bunch of arrows.
Yeah. So where would they put the arrows?
They had like belt quivers usually.
Okay,
gotcha. So it'd be like
Yeah,
at your waist.
If you go
Probably
to a
quicker
range,
as well, like
exactly.
Like over the.
Well, also they're really long because like if you're drawing one back, it's pretty much an arm's length, right? Like
exactly.
That's the idea. So if you're drawing a full arm's length out, you'll have to like lift your entire arm above your head to pull the arrow out, and then bring it right back down to draw.
Yeah.
So it just makes no sense.
And it's not like drawing back is that easy either. Like that takes a fair amount of effort.
Oh no! Like if anyone has like I think like just a beginner bow for an adult or teenager, you would have a 20-pound bow, and that would be that's decent. Don't get me wrong, but it's not too bad. But like an Olympic one, I think, or is it Olympic? I don't know. Like you can go 45 pounds heavy. Is actually like pretty heavy. Like it's they
get heavy. Your back muscles has got to be like
exactly.
Get
back
and workouts in.
Exactly. Your scapula's got to be really like strength has got to be pretty good because you got to like pull them together and make sure that it's stable because you don't want that vibrating or bouncing or shifting as you're taking your shot.
Exactly.
It's really impressive. And it's
it's super cool. Yeah, like I guess it's like one of those sports where you don't consider what like where the strength is going, because it doesn't look like much when you see it, but then like there's obviously a lot to it. Yeah, so Lars Anderson, super cool, check it out. Turns out that most people actually didn't even, like, quivers were definitely a thing, but a lot of them just learned how to shoot arrows while having arrows in their hand. So they wouldn't even have to reach the quivers. They'd have like 3-4 arrows in their hand, and then like a rapid fire sort of thing. Which is kind of like archery tag, because you don't have a quiver.
That's true.
So you just gotta hold them arrows.
We got to practice that cool. Lars style so we can wipe everyone out in archery tag.
Right. We should, like low-key just like research before the next archery tag and get like, go like practice and just like,
it's like, friggin', damn, these guys have been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
If Paul is listening, it's like, you can be on our team.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need quads, yo.
Yeah. Yeah. Just go to like for some target practice, go to like a school and just like, we'll just like,
where are you going with this?
Stop now before this becomes a felony. Like, I don't know.
educate the kids on.
Gotcha.
Yeah. on running
and education purposes.
And run a class on archery. Your guys' mind went way too dark there, way too quick.
I don't know what you're doing in school with a bow. That's what I'm.
No, like a PE class, like teach them a archery lesson.
Yeah, we had archery in school. Did you guys have archery?
I don't think I did.
Only when we went to like camps and stuff, so they were like supervised and an outdoorsy kind of thing, but not in school. Yeah. I mean, that would be awesome, but
yeah, we had archery in school, like gym class. Like there was like a week of archery.
Oh, but like a week.
I think
that makes sense. But if it was like a semester, then I can imagine that going wrong so quickly. A semester.
Well, there's an archery club, so like I don't know.
That's true.
I dropped into it for like a week, or maybe not even. I don't think it was like 3 days. I was like, that's fun, and then I don't know why I didn't continue it, to be honest.
Teenagers, man.
But yeah,
I wish I'd continued half the things I bloody started.
For real.
Yeah.
Like I wish I still played the piano.
Guitar.
Guitar. Yeah.
Pain.
It was funny when they tried to make me do archery. They were like, "Yeah, you should remove your glasses," and I'm like, "Why would I do that?"
Oh well, actually, one of the best archers in the world is like legally blind.
Oh, I did. I read about that.
Yeah, Hawkeye. No shit. Come on, that's what we're talking about.
He's deaf. What are you talking about?
He's deaf, bro.
Damn it.
Nice try, Thomas.
This is exactly what we're talking about.
Damn it.
No, but like I think he's a Chinese archer, and he's legally blind, and he kind of like, so I guess he can kind of make out like colors and it's and kind of make out some basic shapes, but nothing like,
nothing too distinct.
Yeah, nothing too distinct, and which makes it amazing. And I think it's what is it? It's this quote from an archer actually, which I found a long time ago, so I have no clue where it comes from, but I'm sure I've told you guys before. But it's it goes something like this, where it's the student kept missing like his target in archery, and he asked his teacher why he couldn't like hit the target, and the archer told him it's because you're too focused on the target and not on the actions, not on what you're doing. So like you're so focused on the end result that you're not focused on the thing that you're doing right now, to achieve that result, kind of thing. And it's brilliant. And I think that's kind of like how I assume that's how this blind archer is just so good. He just has to work on making sure that, every movement that he makes is like super fine, right? Like it's got to make sure like he's got to have such control, It's just insane. Sure. It's awesome.
I think that's something that we could just take into life, really. Focus on the process, not the result.
Yeah, exactly.
Like have it in view, but don't like just obsess over there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn, metaphors.
Right, it's awesome.
Archery. Wisdom.
I wanted to kind of go back to Hawkeye a bit. Did they ever incorporate the ASL, his deafness, into the Marvel movies at all, or like in video games, in like a weird Easter egg,
good
maybe?
question.
Or
great question. Yeah, kind of. So for video games, in the newest Avengers game, he has hearing aids. So that's kind of a reference to the fact that he's probably deaf.
Or at least hearing impaired.
He hasn't come out as a character yet, so I'm assuming they'll probably tackle that or at least imply it in the game at some point while his story continues. But yeah, he does have hearing aids, so I'm gonna assume that yes, that
cool.
He probably is. And they're doing a Hawkeye TV series for Disney Plus, comes out next year.
Can't wait.
Yeah, so he finally gets the spotlight after being kind of shafted.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I think it makes sense for telling like a more grounded story, like a more human story, like instead of this spectacular.
Yeah, he's not he's not like a cosmic character or anything. He's just a dude, right?
Well, apparently, even like the actor, like during Age of Ultron, like you know that line in the film, it's like, I'm just a dude with arrows,
with a bow and arrow.
With a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense. Apparently, that was ad lib. You know, like.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like I think I distinctly remember that like
it's a good line.
That this was like something he just threw in there, and
none of this makes sense.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it kind of is like, yeah, no, that's great. And I kind of like that he's getting more of a series instead of a film, like especially because there were some, was it leaked or there were some footage? I mean, not footage, but like
images.
Like, images, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're
like
filming it right now. So there's a bunch of there's a bunch of images of them filming it, and in one of them he's got the hearing aid.
Awesome.
So presumably they're gonna tackle that, and Echo is also in the series.
Oh, cool.
So
interesting.
Yeah, so the actress that they cast is actually hearing disabled. So that'll be interesting to see how they kind of tackle that and approach that whole thing. And the whole show is basically like a mantle passing. So like he's Hawkeye, but there's going to be a new Hawkeye by the end of the show, most likely.
Fantastic.
Kate Bishop, if anyone doesn't know who that is, we could do an episode on her. She's a pretty interesting character.
She's like the new Hawkeye, the second Hawkeye?
Yeah, basically.
Cool. So I guess one of my questions was, who would you want to see play Hawkeye other than Jeremy Renner? But I was thinking he was going to be a man, but now I guess the question is for a female Hawkeye.
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I feel like he does a pretty good job. He's like the Hawkeye in the movies is quite different from the comics.
He seems
like
more
for example,
like
the Hawkeye in the comics. Yeah, they went more ultimate.
But somewhere like not as extreme, because Ultimate Hawkeye is insane.
Yeah, somewhere like they took the idea of him having a family from the Ultimate comic series, but he's got more of the wit from the OG Hawkeye, which I hope they kind of lean into a bit more for the series. Like he's kind of a smart ass, so hopefully they lean into that part of him a bit more. I could see Jeremy Renner doing that. He's got like a dry kind of humor. And obviously like in Endgame, he's just so, emotional. So he doesn't really have a chance to do that. Because he just,
yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and like his family disappeared, so he's kind of like not
Totally
down to make too many jokes.
Nah. Yeah. He's just slicing and dicing.
Yeah.
Which is badass, so that's cool.
That was a really like emotional start to Endgame where he just like
I literally just watched that scene like before this call. Like
oh wow.
Oh, that's funny.
That's
funny. It's a great scene. And they were gonna do that at the end of Infinity War, and then it was like a last minute change of like, oh no, we should do that at the beginning of Endgame, which makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have broken my heart in the end of like, but actually like I'm struggling to remember. I remember the end of Infinity War being like
they just
holy
disappear
shit kind of moment. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, you're right. I think like because
it puts you right back into it, right? Like
exactly.
It's like a year later when you watch it, so it's like, here's what you didn't forget, but we're gonna remind you anyway.
But well, it's like you know logically, but they kind of put you in there emotionally using that scene.
Exactly.
You know, like they set the tone for it, and as well, it's like they put you in that perspective of someone who doesn't know what the hell's going on. Whereas like the other Avengers in Infinity War, they're like, we gotta stop him because he's gonna do this, you know. So they know what's at stake. Could you imagine just being like, yeah, like right now, you know?
Yeah,
just like
disappears. Yeah. Yeah, it's trippy. Yeah, no, it's super well done.
It's horrifying.
Great scene. So yeah, they'll probably. Yeah, I don't know who else I would like Hawkeye to be played by. Yeah, that's a tough one. Let's circle back to that one. Maybe next episode. I'll have someone in mind. Yeah, I'll have someone in mind. Yeah, that's a tough one. Not too sure. But yeah, going off of more archery stuff. I kind of went into a rabbit hole of bow hunting because I thought it was really interesting and cool. I also wanted to know the differences between a recurve bow and a compound bow.
The pulley system.
There's plenty. So if people don't know, a recurve bow is the more traditional bow that you would imagine when you think about a bow. And a compound bow is way more technical. It's got way more modifiers to it. You've got like stabilizers, you've got eye sights, you've got
technically speaking, you can get stabilizers on a recurve bow because the Olympic ones, recurve means that there is a bend in the bow. So oftentimes like it's the one that you imagine it's like it's you see like the grip
Hawkeye's bow
and the rest. Yeah, exactly, like Hawkeye's bow kind of thing, where it starts coming, where the bow starts coming back towards the person. Like if you imagine a bow fully drawn, I'm just describing it for the viewers, right?
Yeah,
I mean not
it's like an ellipses
because they can't view.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. So it bends back towards the archer if you imagine it fully drawn.
Yeah.
But then at the very tips, it bends forward again. So it's kind of like this odd. It's very classic. Look. If anyone thinks of a traditional bow, it's technically actually specialized because it's made of.
Well, the material.
The material differs, but the idea is that they have this bend in it. So then that way it creates more elasticity. So when you draw it back and you release it, it has more potential energy and can shoot the arrow with much more power. And the compound is a pulley system, which is really weird. Have you guys ever shot one?
No, I've never shot one. I really want to. They look.
We found
crazy.
one in my granddad's attic.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
And we shot it in the garden. It was a very large garden, that like not just like a small garden.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, oh shit.
No, that was and that was insane because it's so the point of a compound bow is and I think that's why it's and that one's very popular for hunting is as you start drawing, it's got this pulley system, so it's kind of like a bow where you imagine this semicircle like coming back, and at the tips, instead of it bending back like a recurve bow would, you have these wheels, right? And you've got this pulley system with these like usually kind of like a, I don't know, just it's not
they're like wires.
It's like wires, sort of.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like they look like steel wires, right?
Yeah.
So you have this. So as you draw the bow, so you start like pulling the string back towards you. What happens is the weight, like they judge the strength of the bow by weight. So essentially how much weight it takes to draw the bow to its full length, right? So as you're drawing it kind of like, if you're thinking of a recurve, the more you pull it back, the more potential energy there is in it, which means the more effort you have to put into it, right? Yeah. Whereas the compound one, as you start pulling it back, it actually goes much, like it feels much harder, and then suddenly the wheels kind of pull back, and it doesn't like, it kind of like slips or snaps out, like kind of thing. So like the wheels like just draw out, and then suddenly when you're at full length, there's no weight. You don't feel a thing. So you can hold the compound bow for a really long time. So if you're a hunter, this is perfect, because if you, especially before Lars, or at least before Lars popularized it, usually you'd have to slip the arrow on the outside of the bow, which means that every time you want to put an arrow to shoot, it's very fiddly. It's very fiddly. If anyone's done archery in school, right? Whereas like Lars really, well, not just Lars, but other archers as well, popularized the idea of like what you would do is, instead of putting the arrow rest on the exterior of your arm, you'd kind of rest it on your thumb, which makes it real easy to just,
Right.
Sorry, I'm explaining it, and this is your episode. I just got really... This is something that I used to do and play around with, so...
I mean, you've actually shot one, so you would naturally know more about it. So this is awesome.
It's got a kick. It's really fun. Because you don't expect it, because, like, suddenly it weighs nothing, so you don't have any pressures. You're just like, whoa, I can just play around with this thing.
Because,
like,
I've shot
how
a recurve,
dangerous it is, because it's really freaking crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the thing. I've shot a recurve, and it's like, it's easier to pull back initially, and then obviously gets way harder when you get further back, because you have to hold all this kinetic energy, essentially. And then with the compound, it's like way harder to pull initially, and then like the pulley system kicks in and it just locks.
Cool.
And a lot of people have like releases, and so they don't even really need to hold it with their fingers because they have releases. So that makes their aim even better. And so like there's no like, shaking of your hands or anything like that. So your aim is like as specific as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
We should sneak one into archery perfect. Tag. Just not tell anybody.
I think just kill them.
Not tell it.
Because they've got like the shaft of the arrow and then the foam, right?
Yeah.
I could just imagine like everyone going, like us going there with the compounds. It would just kill them. It would just like the stick would just pierce through the foam. It would be like, oh man.
Dude, that'd be like paintball. Like that would hurt like paintball.
That would hurt so much.
There would be some bruises for sure.
Or BB wars. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense why they would use that for bow hunting, because of that. Like, it locks in and you can just look at your target. And so I just went down a bunch of videos from Cameron Haynes. He's a really popular bow hunter. And he's got a YouTube channel, and he just posts, like, he goes out, like, far out into the wilderness and just, like, stays there for a few days. And,
he's like a total nature daddy. I'm looking him up now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He was on Joe Rogan. I think he's the one who got Joe Rogan into bow hunting.
Was he the guy that was on, like, maybe 2 months ago?
He's been there a few times.
Oh, yeah. Total nature daddy.
Yeah.
He's got, like, a friggin' moose on his back here.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, it's nuts. He's taking he did a whole video about that moose, the moose one. And you see him shoot the moose, and it's like 2 arrows, and it's down. And I was like, what? That moose was huge.
Yeah.
Now imagine, like we're seeing like someone shoot a moose with a bow and arrow. Like, it's like, of course, the Mongols with riding horses and these crazy recurve bows, like
masters.
No wonder they took over the world, man. Well, like, pretty much.
More, almost.
Well, largest empire, still not beat.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. They certainly accomplished what they wanted to do. They haven't been rivaled since, so. But yeah, like his stuff is crazy. And he runs up those mountains in the mornings before he goes to hunt. Because like a lot of hunting is just stamina and resistance, and you have to be in it for a long time, like days sometimes, and you won't find anything.
Really?
So
it's like fishing. It's like a hardcore fishing. It's like violent fishing.
Well, on that note, did you know that they have like fishing attachments to bows?
Oh, cool.
What?
Yeah. So imagine a bow, but like on the very like tip of it, like where close to where the arrow would kind of rest, it's a fishing reel.
Oh shit.
So you shoot these like like hooked. Well, I guess like most of like if you got hunting arrows, I imagine most of them are not necessarily barbed, but like pointed.
Some sort of bait.
Yeah. So you're shooting these hooked kind of arrows into.
That's cool.
Rivers, I suppose. I've never done it. It just looks insane. Looks awesome.
That's wild,
right?
I'd be intrigued to see that. That sounds. So it's like a harpoon, but.
Yeah, it's like a harpoon arrow that you're launching, kind of like. Yeah.
That's
instead of chucking, you're just like launching it. Yeah.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Or using like a bow and arrow in like the water to hunt fish, and just like.
Essentially.
Yeah.
It's above into.
Oh, it's actually it goes in the water. It's actually bow and arrow.
Yeah,
it's for the water. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So you're standing like by a river, I imagine.
Okay, gotcha.
Although then, like, now I'm kind of imagining someone swimming around in scuba gear with a bow and arrow, like Hawkeye, and like one of his future. I would love to see that. That'd be freaking brilliant.
That'd be great.
On the note of like the hunting sense of like archers, it's like it's very interesting because Hawkeye's history is kind of like he's kind of like more about like he became this like a really good archer, or at least he was introduced as one because of like a circus kind of thing,
right?
Like that was like I remember that. But in like if you go to DC Comics, like you've got Green Arrow, who I remember very distinctly in a series saying like that he is a hunter kind of thing.
Yeah, and
it's very interesting. Like these two archery characters, all kind of being portrayed as a little different. Like one's a thief circus guy, and the other one is a hunter, and it's like interesting how those.
It's cool. I think like that. I mean, obviously they're Marvel and DC copy off each other a lot, and that's just another aspect of it. Yeah. That'd be a fun one to delve into. But it's kind of, I never thought of that actually, Green Arrow being more of a hunter as opposed to Hawkeye being more of that, more of like a trick shot,
like theatrics kind of guy.
Yeah, like the more of the acrobat. They kind of retcon that as well, like how he gets into the circus in that series.
I think I only read about halfway. I don't remember it very. I read it.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty. I think it makes more. I think it's. I mean, it certainly works better for the story that they're trying to tell in that particular series, where it's him and his brother, and they're kind of, their parents have passed away. And so they've been like moving from foster home to foster home, and they're in this one particular one. The art of that issue is particularly beautiful because it's all watercolory for the past. And so they're not in the best house, and like the father figure is like abusive again. And so they're like, we need to get the hell out of here. And so they end up just bailing. But like the guy's like chasing them, and so they end up going into a circus, and they're like, oh, I'll be fine. And then they show up at the circus with like a bunch of more, basically like a circus, the way they describe it or depict it is more like, just a group of outlaws or weird people that no one really wants to know or see, unless it's for entertainment. And that's kind of how they showcase that. And these two kids are lost, or essentially lost in the world. And so they end up meeting who ends up becoming Clint's master. He's called the Swordsman. They're real clever with their names.
The Swordsman teaches the archer. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, he teaches him a bunch of different stuff, but he just gets a little, like, he gets obsessed with archery. That's why he sticks to that one. But he's also going to be in the TV show, so it's going to like weave a lot of different stories and plots, and it'll be I'm really curious as to see how they kind of pull this TV show off. I guess
when does it come out?
By that point they'll be at the end of the year next year.
Cool.
There's no hard.
There's a bunch of Marvel shows coming out next year. Yeah, it's going to be Like it's pretty much like almost every other month there's a Marvel show coming out. They're like, we slept on 2020, but 2021.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, keep Disney Plus after Mandalorian's done because of because of this.
Because of Marvel.
Yeah,
and then now Star Wars has a bunch of shit too. So they're just laughing.
Like we love High School Musical, the series, but you know, what else you got? You know, it's actually pretty underrated. It's a good show.
That'd be a fun one to delve into.
All the high school. I'm down to do all the High School Musicals. Like
all the High School Musical movies. And
a 3-part series.
With the TV show. Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I think we might have found one of my future. I call that one, by the way. So.
Take it away.
Sounds great.
Yeah, you guys all have to watch it though as well. That's the only thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, the series or the movie.
Both.
Both. Okay, both.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched the movies, but I'll check out the series.
Very good.
If I can. I mean, try to get through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty much Hawkeye. If no one's read it, I would definitely recommend it. It's super good. It's a great series. It's only 22 chapters, so it's not super long. Like there are longer comics out there. It's pretty, it's cool. And they kind of introduce Kate Bishop. Well, they don't introduce her. She already exists, but they get into more of her life as Hawkeye as well. And the whole, like, feel of it is very, like, Guy Ritchie. So if you ever watched Guy Ritchie movies.
Okay, cool.
It feels a lot like that. So it's, like, humorous, serious, but, like, not over the top until it needs to be. It's good shit. Chapter 11 is particularly great. It's all about a dog.
The whole time? Just a dog?
I dig it.
The whole time, yeah.
Cool.
It's about Lucky the pizza dog.
Yeah. Okay,
I also won an Eisner Award for that because it's just all in his perspective. So that's another one that's a great chapter. But good series as a whole, I'd recommend.
Fantastic. Thank you for the recommendation.
All right. And with that, I guess that's that.
That's the show.
Any last comments, concerns?
Dun, 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 dun.
See ya.